Ladies and gentlemen, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas and almost Happy New Year. Welcome to this Christmas episode of Pastors of Payne. I'm Father Brian O'Brien, pastor of St. Francis Xavier Catholic Church, Stillwater, Oklahoma, and we had an awesome Christmas. 7 masses, lots of people, and it was awesome. So I hope everyone's Christmas season is off to a great start. As you know, as we have said many times on the show, Christmas is not just a day. Christmas is a season. Now, Father Carey is not here because he is a lazy bum. And he, over the Christmas break, St. John Catholic Student Center kind of closes down. But he is working, just so you know. He is working. He's out raising money, trying to build a new building. If he were here, this is where he would say the website.
At least that's what he told us.
At least that's what he told us, right?
Who knows?
So go to buildingsaints.com, and this is also where he would sing a song of some sort that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, and he's not in the room, and so we can talk about him.
Is that church of his done yet?
Yeah, it's not done.
It's not done?
I'm like, dude, you're a lazy
been
bum.
Like 3 weeks?
Let's go. But anyway, we have a very special guest, and his name is Kyle Doud.
Yes, hello.
Kyle Doud is a seminarian of the Diocese of Tulsa, and Kyle Doud has a very interesting story, and you're going to hear that story on this podcast
right now,
right here,
Father O'Brien,
right now.
Right now.
This is going down. This is not a bonus episode, but a Christmas episode where, obviously there's so many ways to go with Christmas. You could talk about Jesus being born. We could talk about the Incarnation. You could talk about the year of St. Joseph that Pope Francis has recently declared. There's just so many ways to go with it. And we'll get into that like in later episodes as we celebrate the Christmas season. But Kyle is here and is staying with us over the Christmas break at the St. Joseph Priest Residence, also known as the Rectory. And he's been hanging out with me and with Father Carey and with Father Robert Duck, and has been helping out at Christmas masses and lecturing and sang with the choir.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh boy.
So yeah. Okay, Kyle Doud. What's your story? How old are you?
I am 25 years old.
25. Okay.
Yeah.
And give us a little biography.
Under my belt.
What are you doing here over the Christmas break?
We'll
start where we are now, and then we'll work backwards.
I am taking a quick break from seminary studies, just living with priests and doing whatever needs to get done around the parish, just hanging out, meeting people and stuff, eating all of your food at the rectory.
We have a lot of desserts.
Or at least I'm trying.
Sweet
There's
sassy.
so much.
Sweet fancy Moses. There's so many desserts. And then like yesterday what showed up like a big thing of oranges and grapefruit.
Yeah.
Man, the people are
awesome.
Are good to us. Okay, so you're on break from seminary.
Yeah.
And then you can like come home. Yeah. And visit people and so you're not in class.
Right.
At this moment. Everyone needs a break.
Glorious freedom. Yeah.
Amen to that. And then you're not with your family at this moment because your family lives in.
They live all the way down in Birmingham, Alabama.
Right.
At the moment.
So there's no, you have like aunt and uncle in Tulsa.
Yeah. No. So I grew up.
But your immediate family.
Yeah. I grew up in Enid originally.
Tell us about Enid.
Yeah.
I bet we have some listeners in Enid.
I bet we do.
I have no idea.
If we do, you'll get out soon. Don't worry. Keep trucking. No.
What's wrong with Enid?
No,
I've never really been there.
It's a nice place.
It's just
it's kind of like the rest of the western half of Oklahoma, just pretty flat.
Yeah.
Landscape wise, but great people out there.
You were born in Enid?
I was born in Oklahoma City.
Okay.
My dad was in the Air Force
all right.
when I was growing up. So for the first 3 or 4 years of my life, we were kind of moving around. He was stationed at Tinker.
Nice.
And then he got stationed at Vance, and we stayed there for a good long while. He got in the reserves, instructor pilot.
So Vance Air Force Base is in Enid.
Vance is in Enid.
Got it.
Correct. And so I was out there, grew up, and then I went to school in Tulsa. So that's kind of my Tulsa connection.
Where did you go to high school? This is interesting.
I went to Oklahoma Bible Academy.
Tell us about
Enid,
OBA.
Oklahoma. OBA.
Small school, right?
Yeah. I think when I was there, total number of students was like maybe 250.
Okay, that's pretty small.
Middle and high school.
Yeah.
It was a good place. Learned a lot. Had a really good just a good academic situation there.
Probably learned the Bible since it's in the name of the school.
Yeah, 4 years of Bible classes, literally, which were all really great. Memorizing scripture, learning more about the Old and New Testaments and what went into writing those. And then the last year was actually really good. It was kind of more of a what is contemporary, what are the philosophies out there in the world, kind of like a shotgun approach to what other non-Christians believe. Kind of a Christian approach to that.
What are you going to encounter when you leave Enid?
OBA.
Yeah.
The whole entire world.
Wow.
So there was
that's good for them. That's a good
It was
a very
outward
kind of outward approach.
But it was really good. It actually prepared me a lot for just encountering
what you'd find in college,
beliefs. Yeah.
Okay, so you are what we would say in the Catholic Church. You are a convert.
Yes.
Which means you were not. So
Not
some
raised
people use the phrase I'm a cradle Catholic, and what they mean, it's not an official term, but you're not going to find that in the Catechism. But what people mean by that is I was born into a Catholic family, baptized Catholic as a baby, and then there's other people who we would say are converts. They were not Catholic, and then they became Catholic, and that's you.
Adult life.
What did you grow up as?
I grew up kind of generally on the Baptist side of the Protestant tree, is how I like to say it. So I was baptized in a Baptist church, and then for a little while we went to a Mennonite Brethren church.
For real?
Yeah, for
wow.
real. It's the electricity using Mennonites. So we weren't quite that crazy, but
okay. Wow.
And then when I was in college, I started going to a Presbyterian church. So kind of jumped up the tree a little bit back to
Baptist. How old were you when you were baptized?
I was 7 years old.
7?
6 or 7 years old.
And that was you made that choice? You said I would like to be?
I remember going to a summer camp at some point and kind of hearing similar things to what I've been hearing my whole life about, Jesus dying on the cross for my sins and God the Father loving me, John 3:16.
It's all true.
Yeah, very basic catechism. But for some reason when I was 7 years old, it all kind of clicked and I realized I have some concept of sin now at 7 years old, whatever that would have been.
You're a miserable sinner.
Yeah, horrible. I just encountered God's love and knew it was true, and I was I want to be baptized.
Nice.
So yeah.
Were you baptized in a church? Or?
I was. Yeah, I was baptized on a Sunday. My dad actually baptized me.
Really?
Yeah, which is a really cool. That's just cool thinking back as a Catholic, thinking about that.
Wow. Okay.
Very unique experience.
Well, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so you graduate high school, and then you crossed over to the diocesan line from Enid to good old Tulsa. And so you went where?
I went to the University of Tulsa.
Okay.
Golden Hurricanes.
Go Hurricanes.
Yeah. Blow Canes.
And you came. Why did you go to TU?
It was kind of a fluke, really. Just it worked out financially with different scholarships and stuff, and we knew it was one of the best schools in the area.
Sure, so for sure.
We went for that, I went there to study English and communications, and I really think actually that God put me there to become Catholic. If I actually think about it.
Okay.
Just because
the Lord working in mysterious ways.
It's the perfect, the Newman Center there was just in a great spot at the time. Father Carey, not with us at the moment, but he was with us
of
then.
blessed memory.
Yeah, of blessed
So Father Carey, because we've talked about this on the show, so before Father Carey moved here to Payne County, he was the chaplain at the University of Tulsa. St. Philip Neri Newman Center at the University of Tulsa. So you rolled in as a freshman. When is that? When was that? What was your when did you graduate high school?
Oh, I graduated high school 2013.
Okay, so you graduated 2013.
So many years ago.
You're so old. So then you came the fall of 2013. Yeah, so Father Carey,
he would have been there. Yeah, right during his heyday, his golden age there.
What was he like at the University of Tulsa when in his younger years?
He grew so much over that time.
He has more gray hair.
We helped him so much. Yeah. We got him closer to heaven for sure.
That's
right. Kicking and screaming. No, yeah, it was great. He had a good, I think he had a good impact on the community there. Because like that, honestly, seeing the community life of the Catholics there was what made me want to become Catholic initially.
Wow, what was it? I mean, what did you see? What did you see?
So I saw, I would come to the Newman Center more my sophomore year for just like bigger events, so like the Thanksgiving shindig they call it there.
So
like
freshman year of college,
stuff.
you went to the you went to the Presbyterian church.
Yeah, I went to the Presbyterian group.
Okay.
I sang in a Presbyterian church as like a kind of Sunday choir gig. On Sundays, and just kind of bounced around different ministries and stuff. I may have gone to the Newman Center maybe once or twice while I was there for free food. But I started going there
free food.
More regularly for other events that sophomore year. And I just remembered like seeing all of these people who otherwise didn't really know each other and didn't have any, association other than this campus ministry who genuinely loved each other, and there was a genuine
because they're from
joy.
all over the country. I mean, TU students, I mean, like OSU is, people all over the world.
Big school,
come to TU for all kinds of reasons.
Yeah.
Did someone invite you? Like you?
Yeah. So I was in a fraternity at the time, the music fraternity on campus. And
what's that called?
Phi Mu Alpha.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does OSU have one of those?
I don't think so. Maybe they do.
Is it the band fraternity?
It is kind of a general, just like anybody who likes music and is male can join that fraternity.
Okay.
It's pretty great. It was actually, there were a lot of good like Christian guys in that group. They had just gone through like a really great resurgence of like values and stuff at the time. So I joined a lot of good stuff then. But one of my best friends in that was becoming Catholic.
What's his
sophomore
name?
year. His name is Jeremiah Neely. He is a great guy.
Shout out Jeremiah.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah,
wherever
he's good
you
friends
are.
with Father Carey, so he might be listening to this.
Okay.
So he became Catholic, and I was kind of weirded out by that. I thought, like, well, aren't they just like
Catholics are weird.
Yeah. Well, I grew up
Why would you
thinking
do that?
like Catholics were just Christians, so you wouldn't like growing up as like a Baptist. If I was going to start going to a Presbyterian church, I wouldn't say like I'm converting to Presbyterianism.
There's not a process to becoming,
Yeah, there's maybe in some of them, but most of them, So to hear him say like I'm converting to Catholicism, I thought like, what? That makes it sound like a cult. What are you doing, Isn't it just like, aren't they just regular Christians? And he'd say, well, they are Christians, but like it's a little bit more than that. So that kind of like piqued my interest into the Catholic thing. Yeah.
And then, so
that through him, I started hanging out with
Center,
Catholics a bit more. Yeah, saw the community there, and it's like Jesus is present in this community than in a more dramatic and visible way than he's been in any of the churches I've ever been in.
Wow.
And I've never been in like a bad church,
Sure.
And I knew that at the time, so I was observing this community life, this love that the people had for each other, which is very much like St. Paul. They'll know you're Christians by our love.
Yeah. Kind of that Acts chapter 2.
Yeah.
The breaking of the bread and the works and the scriptures and
Yeah. So I remember like that kind of like initially piqued my interest, but then also seeing how they lived their moral life, that they were striving to be good people in like a Christian sense, and they were also enjoying it, because I kind of had this association in my mind of like being a good person and being a good Christian means that you're like kind of miserable, like
to follow the moral law is to be is
kind of grumpy,
yes,
sad, and
there's not joy in following the commandments,
right, wrapped up in how inadequate you are about it, and stuff, which they were like, I think they recognized that there was definitely some humility in how they were, they weren't saying that they were perfect or anything, but they were genuinely trying to
just striving. Yeah. I think that's so attractive. I think in the life of Christians, when you see someone just really striving for holiness, and you see, and and especially if you get to know them, like you see them fall short, you see them at times kind of saying one thing and doing another. But there's this kind of, there's this humility that like, but I really want it. I want to be like Jesus. I want to follow him closely.
That was actually what struck me the most about Jeremiah's conversion, among, many other things, but just seeing the change that happened in him from freshman year to sophomore year, like within, over one summer, how much more humble he had become in accepting criticism and accepting, it was just a great moment of like personal growth. And seeing that, I thought like, I want that in my life, in different areas. I want like that kind of dynamic, like just explosive conversion in other moral areas of my life. So there's like over that whole academic year, my sophomore year, there's just this growing desire for, not necessarily like, I don't think I would have put it in terms of I want to become Catholic, but there was a desire to live the kind of life they were living.
I want what they have.
Yeah. Very much so.
And then junior year rolls up. And what happens?
So like at the end of sophomore year, I had a very, very dramatic prayer experience, an encounter with God's love, where basically he and this was something I had no context for in my life prior to this, but I heard the voice of God like speaking to me in prayer. And essentially the conversation from his end, from God's end, he said to me, like, do you realize that he put it in the terms of like sin is your responsibility. Like you actually are doing this, not just, I grew up thinking like sin is just a part of my nature, so I can't control it, Anymore
it's inevitable.
Anymore I control having, 2 arms, let's say. But God was like, no, actually sin, like,
is optional.
Sin is optional. So is virtue.
Kind of the virtue is a choice.
Yeah, kind of the hidden premise in that was like, sin is this, but also virtue is like your choice. And he basically gave me the choice to be virtuous, to be holy, to start trying to be holy. And so I took that and fell in love with God, honestly, at that moment. Like, I remember walking out of my apartment after that and just looking around and being like, wow, this, like, it's spring and everything's beautiful, and, like, I see people differently now.
Wow.
Like, I see them and I actually
That's very scriptural, kind of the scales fall from the eyes and you see things differently. I was blind and now I see.
Yeah. So immediately after that, I started talking to the Catholics about it because I knew, like
they would understand.
Yeah, I was like, you people are crazy. Like you live like this is normal. I remember actually I talked to my buddy Sam, who's also in our fraternity. He was born and raised Catholic, a cradle Catholic, as you said, from St. Louis. And so I talked to him one night about that, and he said, yeah, that sounds like prayer. I'm like, is that a normal thing for you? He's like, well, no, but like, it happens. I was like, that's so weird. Like, nobody ever, when I was growing up, talked about like prayer being like something where God could actually like talk back to you. At least I don't remember hearing that. So I kept talking with them, and then about a month later, so this is in the summer, I went on a retreat called Tech, Together Encounter Christ. Some places known as Teens Encounter Christ. Yep. We did it as a kind of young adult thing in the diocese for a while. And so I went to that, and it was at Catholic Charities in Tulsa, which is a beautiful, beautiful place. And one of the parts of this retreat was a talk about the Eucharist, which was kind of the one Catholic doctrine that was really, really weird to me at the time.
I like you, but not that much.
It's like everything else made sense on like a human level, but then the Eucharist was like, the more that people explained it to me, the more I thought that Catholics were like, a weird cult or something. Yeah. I was like, this is weird. And
that's not uncommon. I mean, I think a lot of people who didn't grow up with the doctrine of the Eucharist, it's kind
of out there.
It can come across as strange at first.
Yeah. So I went into this talk thinking like the Eucharist is kind of the most cultish thing that Catholics believe, and I walked out of it thinking, wow, that actually kind of makes sense, because they explain kind of like a little bit of the philosophy behind like transubstantiation and these big words that I had no like. Now studying philosophy in seminary, I understand that, but now I'm like, at the time had no idea. So anyway, they kind of explained it, and then they did the right thing, which was just to put us in adoration afterwards. So I just sat there with the Eucharist and had another conversation with Jesus. And by the end of that conversation,
what do you want from me?
Yeah, more like, Jesus, I don't believe you're in there, but these people do, and they're not crazy. So help me out with this, right?
Huh.
And yeah, by
I
the
love
end
that.
of it,
Just a very sincere. I think that's where we I think sometimes we can kind of
overcomplicate things.
Formal prayer has its place.
Mm-hmm.
But I think sometimes we there you are, you're a college kid, you're just sitting there and you're like, Lord, what is your deal? Like what,
Yeah.
what do you, and I think that kind of like real dialogue,
Mm-hmm.
like we sometimes miss,
Yeah.
or we think I can't talk to the Lord like that.
Right.
Sort of informally because he's God and I'm not, and
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, you were just like, what are you doing?
It's like Jesus became man, so I'm like, I'm
are you?
going to talk to him like one man to another man, like, just work things out with him. And yeah, by the end of that hour of adoration, I, like, again, like you were talking about, like scales from the eyes moment of realizing, like, there was no like Eucharistic miracle happened or anything, but I looked at the altar and I'm like, wow, that's the man that I've been praying to my whole life.
Yeah.
That's the God that like has saved me so many times
Wow.
on the altar, and he wants me to eat him. I want to become Catholic. And it was just like instant,
Boom.
like an instant change of like.
So then
I
what? What do you do?
Went and talked to Father Carey, probably the next week or so at the Newman Center. I was like, I would like to become Catholic.
Like what time of year was this?
This is in the summer,
okay.
in June, late May, early June, something like that. So we just started that conversation, and then I was hanging around in Tulsa for that summer, so I just kept going to Mass, kept going to confession and well, I guess not at the time. I wouldn't have been going to confession yet, but just kept in contact with him, with other Catholics from school. Then over that whole next semester, went to RCIA. And I was actually confirmed in December because I was studying abroad in the spring.
Oh, okay, we had
So
to
I
move the timeline up.
Accelerated things a little bit, and I got confirmed on December 13th of 2015, which was Gaudete Sunday. The pink
the third
Rose Sunday.
The third Sunday of Advent. Yeah.
So I've been here ever since.
Wow. All right, so that was what year?
2015. So 5 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then a lot has happened.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
like so then you went.
Kind
you
of
were
went
not
all in.
You came to college not a Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
You left college as a Catholic, and then like became. Like, an Uber Catholic. I mean, you left right after college, right after TU, you became a Focus missionary.
Yeah.
Which are, if you're listening to the show a lot,
Okay.
We've had
Focus
missionaries on.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah. And so where'd you go? You were
as a Focus missionary.
Yeah.
I went to Louisiana, to Lake Charles, Louisiana, McNeese State University.
Oh, yeah.
Way down there in Cajun country.
Of course, you played them in football last year.
Yeah. I'm sure that went real well for OSU.
It did. I think it was.
Is kind of a shutout, probably
54-7 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. They're better at other things.
But they were nice people.
Yeah.
We met some McNeese State guys who came from Mass. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
All right. So you're at McNeese State. You did a year there as a missionary.
And then I went to Northwest Missouri State University.
Oh.
In Northwest Missouri, the state. That was pretty good as well. Loved that. Loved both of those campuses. And kind of throughout all of that, whenever I'd come back to Tulsa, I would talk to Father Pratt, the vocations director, and the whole time just keeping up this conversation of what is the priesthood? What does it look like to discern?
When did priesthood first come on?
So this is a fun story.
How long had you been a Catholic?
I had been a Catholic for actually, I was not Catholic yet. So right after I talked to Father Carey the first time about becoming Catholic, so this is back in 2015, late May, early June. I'm so glad he's not here so that I can tell this without him interrupting.
He probably doesn't even listen to the show anyway.
So right after that first conversation, maybe like a week later, he texts me and says, "There's a retreat going on at the Newman Center in a month, and it's free. It's a weekend retreat. You should go to it. As a new Catholic, not in RCIA yet or anything, but you should go." And I said, "Okay, send me the link and details." So I'm reading about this retreat, and there's a bunch of all these weird Catholic words I've never heard of before. Like,
was it the
adoration.
Life Awareness Retreat?
It was. Yeah.
So you had not even started RCIA.
Yeah.
And we're inviting you to a discernment retreat.
Father, I didn't even know.
Wow, that's a little out of order.
I didn't even know the correct ordering of the letters for RCIA yet. And I walk in, and there's like nuns checking people in. There's this monk with a huge beard walking around.
That is comedy.
There's like this gaggle of seminarians kind of walking around talking about Jesus and stuff. And I walk in, I'm like, oh, great.
What's interesting though is I went to seminary with a number of guys who were converts to Catholicism, and a number of them would tell their story like they felt called to the priesthood, like even kind of before or as they were becoming Catholic.
Yeah.
So it wasn't. I mean, and everybody's story, everybody's journey is like a little different. So anyway, I think it's not kind of uncommon.
Yeah, and I mean, growing up, definitely growing up, priesthood was, I can't even express how far off the radar Catholic priesthood was for me. Had you ever
met,
before?
Like in Enid, did you ever run into any of the priests?
No, I think Father Carey, God bless him, was the first Catholic priest I ever met. So somehow I'm still here.
He's the first priest. One of these things is not like the other.
Right, yeah.
Oh my.
But I mean, growing up, I definitely loved like the preaching aspect of the pastor.
Sure.
I remember that was one of the ways in which I would engage the most in sermons growing up was like, sitting there for 20 minutes and like listening to somebody preach on one verse. I would think a lot about like, okay, well, this is how he's saying it, but what else is in this passage, this gospel passage?
Yeah.
Like, how would I say this? How would I teach what he's saying?
If I were up there, yeah.
And yeah, so that's still really on my heart is like,
now you get to do something about it.
Yeah.
As a seminarian, wow.
I would love to, yeah.
All right, so you became Catholic, you're focused missionary.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking to the vocation director.
Yeah.
And then
kind of halfway through focus, I was still wrestling with like applying to seminary. And the main thing that was kind of in my way was celibacy. Just thinking about, I don't want to be alone for the rest of my life, and that's kind of what celibacy looks like, from an outside, not really a spiritual perspective. And I wanted to have like a good, a big Catholic family. I think that still is kind of my big desire, is to have a big Catholic family. So I brought that to God at one point on a retreat, and the answer that I like received for that, like kind of the context for it was like, a priest is a father. And so as a priest, you're a father to literally everybody you meet.
Yeah.
So take that 10 kids that I was like desiring to have and then multiply it by literally everybody I meet.
Yes. Yeah, thousands of people.
Yeah, so God's kind of message to me was like, your desires are good, but like the desires that I have for you like are those and more. It's like an expansion of my heart. So,
wow. All right, Kyle Doud, man. And so there's obviously more to the story. So you're in your second year of seminary, 4.5 to go.
4.5 to go.
And gosh, what a journey. Okay, so just interesting for everybody out there. So Kyle obviously didn't grow up Catholic, so doesn't have a home parish in the traditional sense. My home parish is St. Martha, Mary, and Lazarus Friends of Jesus Catholic Church, Kingwood, Texas, where I grew up. But then when I moved to Tulsa, like I kind of needed a parish, so like Christ the King in Tulsa kind of adopted me. So we have adopted Kyle. So when you get the new seminarian poster, it's going to say Kyle Doud, St. Francis Xavier in Stillwater as like his home parish, which we are very blessed to have. And the first of many vocations from our parish for the future. So anyway, that is the story of Kyle Doud. Wow, I hope you found that interesting and inspiring. If you want to get a hold of him, you can email him. You can email me, I'll forward him on to you. Yeah. But anyway, he's going to be around for a couple days, and you'll see him in and around Stillwater. This is the Pastors of Payne. We wish you a very Merry Christmas, and we'll see you next time. May God bless you.